it's not always easy to remember that what we should do from this step right here, what we should do is divide by 3/4. So what I want to talk about next is an alternative way to solve part B that can actually help us to mitigate the disaster and chaos of questions like part C. So x equals 2/9 we can show as the solution to the one that we just solved. But I want to get to that solution a different way. I want to do something that gets the fractions out of our lives immediately so that we don't have to worry about them anymore. Did anybody start part B in a way that killed the fractions? Or do you have any ideas on what you could do in part B to make the fractions disappear? Right. So Matt, tell me about lowest common denominator. What do you mean, and how does that work here?
What number is both divisible by 4 and 6?
Okay. So find a common, we call that a common multiple of 4 and 6. So something of which 4 and 6 both go into evenly. So what are some examples of common multiples of 4 and 6? 24 is definitely a common multiple of 4 and 6. Anything which is a multiple of 24 would also work, right? 48, 96, 72, and so on and so on. Okay. Is there anything smaller than 24 that's both a multiple of 4 and a multiple of 6? $12 is smaller than 24. It goes into 4 goes into 12 3 times. 6 goes into 12 twice. Anything smaller than 12 work? I think we're stuck with 12. So 12 is what's called the lowest common multiple, or the least common multiple, the LCM. Sometimes called the lowest common denominator if we're thinking about it in a fraction context. So that's the least common multiple. 24 is literally just the product, 4 times 6. We can use either one of those two, and in fact we can use any one of these common multiples for the purpose we're about to use it for. Using the least common multiple makes it so that we can work with the smallest numbers possible in the arithmetic that we're about to do. So that has the advantage of eliminating the magnitude, large magnitude numbers that you might otherwise get. So we could do this with 12, we could do it with 24. For the purposes of this problem, let's do it with 12. So if I've identified that 12 is the common multiple of 4 and 6, how can I use that number, 12, to make my equation simpler? I'm going to recopy the equation one more time. 3/4 x equals 1/6. What can I do with that 12 to make my fractions go away? Multiply everything in the equation by that number 12. So multiply the left-hand side of the equation by 12, multiply the right-hand side of the equation by 12. Again, as long as we do the same thing on both sides, we haven't ruined anything. We've done a correct step. And this particular correct step is going to help us to get rid of fractions. Now is the step when if people are going to mess this up, usually it happens right here. We got to do some multiplication now. How do I do 12 times 3/4? How do you multiply a whole number by a fraction? Yeah, turn that whole number into a fraction, 12 over 1, and then after that, what? Now it's just a fraction multiplication problem. How do you multiply fractions? Straight across. So 12 times 3. 1 times 4. What's 36 over 4? Yeah, it's just a division problem. 36 divided by 4 gives me 9. So the left-hand side of my equation, when this whole process is done, 12 times 3/4 x is really 9x. How about 1/6 times 12 on the right-hand side? Yeah, same story. So put that 12 over 1, multiply across 12 over 6. 12 over 6 is awesome. So now my right-hand side is 2. Great, my fractions are gone. As long as I did this fraction arithmetic correctly, as long as I multiplied the fractions in the right way, I'm going to get an equation which is still true, but which doesn't have fractions left anymore. We can deal just in whole numbers. From that equation, 9x equals 2, how do we get x by itself? Divide by 9. And sure enough, that gets us directly to the answer that we had before, x equals 2/9. So in a problem like part B, you might prefer to use the first method we talked about, where we deal with fraction arithmetic the whole way through. Seems like we had a couple of less steps, right? We kind of did the previous example in just one step. Just divide by 3/4 and be done with it. Right? Or you might choose in part B to do this technique that we call clearing denominators. Take the two denominators that are present, find a least common multiple, or any common multiple really, and just multiply everything in sight by that common multiple, because that's guaranteed to kill all your fractions. It's going to give you still another equation that doesn't have x by itself yet, but at least it has whole numbers only. And from there, most people get into their comfort zone and start to really groove when your equation only has whole numbers in it. So the sooner you can get to that point, the better it goes for many people.